Hoi, well, hello. I'm going to ask for a mic check because currently, my internet bar just tanked right in the middle of playing the intro. Hi, Jenny. How are you? Maybe it's good to see you. How do I sound, guys? I'm glad you made it, Jenny. It's going to be an interesting one today. I'm just giving my internet a couple of minutes to try to bounce back. I don't want to not be able to do this, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, okay, it looks like it's coming back now. It just went into the green, but hopefully it sounds. Thank you, Mippy, very much for letting me know. You didn't hear the intro though? Oh, it was only a few. It's only like less than a minute long, so you might have missed it. Sorry about that. I played again at the end. I actually really like it. The music was done specially, and Mocking had done the video. I was having terrible time with the music I was using, with some like third party group trying to claim that it sounded very similar to something else, and I kept having to do appeals, which I won, but it would delay everything by 6 weeks or so and pull the video out of the algorithm. It was really frustrating. So a friend wrote it, Wrecker. Everybody knows MC Wrecker. Oh, he gets credit for that. He wrote the piece Sanctuary for it. It's really cool. It really is good. And so I really like having that addition to the channel. And I'm just chatting to try to get this internet to go back into solid green for at least a couple of minutes before I start. But I can tell you, we have two interesting subjects today. If you had looked at the thumbnail, we definitely have two women to talk about today that have really been, keeping YouTube, at least legal YouTube and commentary YouTube, very, very busy lately. Like I have more notifications from YouTube and in my private in my DMs, emails, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, back of videos like everywhere, getting tagged. This is crazy what's been going on, especially in regards to the baby reindeer case. It is quite a few, well, for me, interesting, snarky reads lately that I would like to share with you. But I think I'm actually going to start with Boone, if that's okay with you guys, because we're most familiar with the Boone case. And as we get closer to trial, which is currently still scheduled for October 7th, Sarah Boone, her new attorney, Mr. Owens, he's been filing like crazy. One of the other things that happened very recently was that they got a second chair, Mr. Kevin Beck, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And giving it just a couple of minutes just to get this all, situated. It's still dipping. It's like green for a minute and then dips. And I really don't want to have to reschedule this stream. But as long as you guys say I'm not roboting, please, if you hear me start to robot, or if any of the presentation or anything gets jumbled up, like give me a thumbs, like give me some kind of notice in the chat, okay? Because I want this to be, able to be presented later to everybody. I don't really want to have an audio issue. They drive me crazy. Hey, Juju. Meep, meep. Okay, Juju, you ready for a Boone update? Because I'm going to hit you with Boone first, and then I'm going to read you some really good stuff from the Netflix, from Fiona Harvey and Netflix. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you. I sound great. You guys are really making me feel better about this. Okay, I'm gonna carry on then, because there is a debate today, so I really don't want to go too late. All right. So let me just start. Like, we're going to start with Boone. And the thing with Boone is, like I said, she got her defense attorney, who, well, he says he's pro se. Well, we're going to go into that a little bit because there's some stuff here. There's some stuff here. I'm telling you. Hey, Liam. Good to see you, dude. with Sarah Boone, we know she was pro se, and we know that she used to handwrite her. She used to handwrite all of her motions, and I don't think she was doing that bad. I really don't. Um, and I'm going to start with that, and then we'll get on to the rest of it. Okay. Um, and I do believe that this link I have is shareable for you guys. I'm going to give you a copy of the letter to read along if you'd like, or for later. It's interesting. It's not really a letter. It's actually her motion. And it was done right before. Hey, Couch. It was done right before Mr. Owens came on, or actually served the court anyway. So it was done before, but unfortunately, as we will see, let me just pull this down and bring that up. As we're going to see, she filed it a little too late. Okay. Her cutoff was the 26th. She didn't even write it till the 29th. She would have had a bitter, like if she had backdated it and just like said, oh, the mail must have been delayed. But no, it actually was received by the judge and all, but she didn't even write it till the 29th, like past the deadline for the actual objections to the electronic evidence. That's what we're going to be looking at here. She's writing, remember that she was receiving a jump drive. Uh, and she received all of that evidence on the jump drive, remember? And part of it is going to be interesting to note is that, well, let's just dive into it. I think you'll see. It's objections to digital contents, and we're going to get into this specific. We know this is from Sarah. I'm not going to read every word. She gets like really legal here. She's copying it. She learns well. She knows how to look stuff up, copy, and do what needs to be done. But she's going to talk about the digital discovery compilation that she received as documented in the record on August 9th. Okay. And she's got some things to say about it. Okay. First of all, she's going to object. Yes, you're reading that right. I hope I'm showing it right up here. I hope you can see it really clear. As a matter of fact, I'm going to come off the screen and let this be big enough for you guys to read even better. Okay. She actually is going to object to the suitcase videos. She's actually going to object to the suitcase videos. Both of them. The 2 minutes and 3 seconds and the 22 seconds. And also the fact that they took a picture of the suitcases. Okay. Now, if you'll all recall, all of these, they didn't take the picture of the suitcase that she's getting the digital evidence. This was all taken from her phone. As I'm looking at it, these image marks, these are actually from the phone. Okay, this is definitely digital information that they took out. They actually took off her phone. Okay, but let me read what she says, and then we'll discuss it amongst ourselves. I do promise to be naughty, snarky as usual because there are some things here we need to look at. So I'm going to try to tuck it in, even though, just on a basis of my first read, it definitely was ridiculous to me. But anyway, she says, lack of authenticity. There is no one to testify that the picture and audio are the same as the scene was at the time the audio was recorded and photograph taken. The prosecution fails to establish authenticity in any of the 3 files submitted. Oh, I'm going to have something to say about that. She then goes in and does the statutes that cover that. Potential for unfair prejudice. I believe that the singular reason to utilize this audio is for the state to heavily prejudice the jury against me based on my statements in the audio to George Torres. The prosecution's evidence is more prejudicial than probative. Okay. All right. Now, I said I promised to be a little less snarky, but I have to point out 2 facts here. Sarah Boone obviously hasn't watched a lot of court TV. Okay. Sarah Boone obviously doesn't know a lot about technology because those files that they took from her phone, which I need to actually remind everyone she willingly gave to the police before she was arrested to go through, and that they asked her permission. She didn't need to be Miranda'd, it didn't need to be subpoenaed. She's claiming that there's no authenticity. And she's going to go farther on in this and claim that there's no timestamps and things like that. Well, she's forgetting that your phone has all that. Just because she doesn't see it, because she doesn't know where to look, doesn't mean it. They're going to be able to tell exactly when that video was taken. And I'm sure that the state has acquired experts to actually verify that. Okay. And if she's going to actually put a defense of non authenticity, they're going to be able to depose her and ask her. And they're going to be able to actually put that information forward. Now, that's ridiculous. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't, because that's a whole long thing. You've got to get permission, because it is more prejudicial than probative to ask the defendant directly about this stuff and for the jury review. Okay. If she took the stand, it would be all over. Okay. But to get it into evidence prior to that is not really going to happen, except for the fact that a technician is going to be able to say when those videos were recorded and that they are copied on that phone on that date and that time. Okay, banking on the fact that George Torres is no longer with us to say, yeah, she was videoing me, and that she says she doesn't remember. She's banking on that, but it's a very non-legal argument. Okay, it does not hold legal water. I'm waiting to see what her actual attorney Owens files, because remember, this is a pro se motion. She filed this one, mailed it in before Owens came on board. Owens already said all other motions that they were reviewing, get rid of those. I'm going to rewrite everything. I'm hoping he rewrites this one, because there are some things that they can go to, but not exactly where Sarah is actually pointing everybody. And also, I just have to say, for a defendant on trial for murder to say you can't use testimony that proves that I did it because it's prejudicial, well, that's a joke, Sarah, because the state is going to make a case against you. And because it actually makes you look bad is not a reason to put it in there. I mean, yes, there's the prejudice versus probative when it comes to evidence, but not direct evidence like this. Actually, evidence of other things. Like, if you want to argue prejudice versus probative, maybe you should worry about your past record of abuse that's on file with the state of Florida, that no, you were not, taken to trial and found guilty because charges were dropped. There is that. If you want to keep that out from the jury, then you got this kind of argument. But I really don't think saying that video makes me look bad, you can't use it. It makes me look more bad than good. I mean, just like the defense is able to bring evidence in, it's going to make the state look bad, which we're going to get to that, which they're really working hard to do. Okay. But I'm going to check the chat comments right now, because I can't be the only one that thinks that is actually using, like, she just stated that those were her words. Exactly. And she doesn't want her words used against her. And it's going to be a big thing today, because further on, did I drop the link for this letter to you guys yet? I'm sorry if I didn't. Here it is. I want you all to have it, because I'm not going to actually read the whole thing. I think that would be a little boring for you, but I'm going to talk about the points that are in it. If you guys want it for the record, there it is. It may or may not be watermarked. I think because it's her writing and it'll be everywhere. I may not have it. I don't care what you do with it. I don't even know if this is even going to be allowed in. I guess the judge is going to have to address it, but I think he's going to wait to see what actually the attorneys do about it. Okay. But yeah, she just stated that those were her own words. Sarah thinks that she can actually say it's prejudicial to use my own words against me, and not so. I mean, we all know that even if you're not giving your Miranda rights because they're not arresting you, if you volunteer statements to the police, they're allowed to give them to you. She was asked to come in and speak to them. She didn't have to be Mirandaized to do that. She came in to talk about an event, and they're allowed to use anything she said and did. And she willingly gave them the evidence that is going to be used against her. She did. And she willingly, the whole time on site while the police were there, spoke to everyone, gave conflicting stories back and forth, and then came in for a formal interview. And at first was not arrested or read her Miranda rights. As soon as she was arrested, she was read her Miranda rights and told, you don't need to say another word to us. Okay. But she's now trying to claim that everything that they said before, because she didn't get Mirandized, can't be used against her. And that is not true. And we all know it. What does everybody always say? Remember when Jay used to stream with me? And every single time we did a stream, he would say, guilty, not guilty, had nothing to do with it. Shut up and get a lawyer. Do not talk to the police. Every damn word that you say can be used against you. Okay? You even in court, in the hearings, everything goes on the record. This is crazy. I just lost it. Prejudice isn't the same as damning evidence. Exactly, Liam. Because if this was the case, we'd never have a trial. If you're allowed to say, oh, that makes me look really bad, like it's more prejudice than probative, we got to get that out of here. For all of the state's evidence, there would never be a trial. We would never get guilty verdicts, and we wouldn't need juries, right? I mean, the whole process, you know? Oh, thank you for permission. I'm sorry, T. King. I just can't help it with this. I'm not a lawyer, but I think other lawyers would be looking at it going, whoa, Sarah, I'm so glad you got a lawyer now. I'm so glad you got a lawyer now. You need a lawyer, okay? Because you might have something here. Like, she does want to actually, the best defense, and let's just talk about the defense for a second. She's got her attorney, Mr. Owens. And recently I did another one. Kevin Beck has signed on his second chair. And this is one of the attorneys that Mr. Owens mentioned during the hearing, along with several others, which I haven't seen actually file anything yet as far as motion to attend or whatever they call that. Attendance to trial, whatever that's going to be. But some of the names he mentioned, one of the names was actually, and I have to research these, but it does appear that they are the lawyer that represented the media when we actually had the motion to try to keep the media out of the trial. And now they may actually be sitting on her side or working with Mr. Owens, but I have to see the filings on that yet. So there was a couple of other reporting in other places. You know me, I check all of the YouTube reporting, all the law channels, the Reddits, the news media, searching here and there, but I can't find actual documentation on the court files yet. So I couldn't say it's true. And I don't even know if it's the same person. It looks like the same name, but we will find that out. Well, we have the two attorneys. Okay. And the second attorney that filed on, before anybody brings it up, chat, I will just say he does have a admonishment on his record with Florida. There was a complaint made about some moving around of trust fund, the trust account that you put your client's money in. And he had some explaining to do to the board about what had happened. And he really didn't follow procedure, and he got caught in. It doesn't look like he really intended to steal anything from anybody or this, that, and the other thing, but he did actually not follow the rules. It was very unprofessional, and he has an admonishment on his record for it. It does look a little bit bad, but that's the explanation of it. Basically, client accounts, the accounting is pretty straightforward. That money goes in because it's the accountants, and the only way you can take it out is with a bill for services or something that happened in regards to the client. It either goes back to the client or you use it for client-related services, period. Okay, but apparently he moved it out and he didn't realize he put it in the wrong account. He went to write another big check on this account and there wasn't money in there. It was a little bit messy. But he did give a fair answer, and he seemed to be able to explain it adequately, everything he did. And here's the point. He took accountability. He realized it was sloppy. He explained that it shouldn't have been done that way. He told them everything that happened. He didn't hold anything back. So he doesn't have any kind of sanctions. He just has an admonishment, which means it's just every time anybody looks him up, there it is. The bar just feels it's important that people know this, and that was part of the setting of it, But on that, But back to what has been filed lately. What has been filed lately on Sarah Boone is that I believe the last time we talked, because we apparently will be talking about Sarah Boone every week up to trial if they keep this so. Last week they asked for the actual procedures in regards to interrogation and interview from the sheriff's department, because they're trying to get the interview thrown out in what happened before. Okay. And now they're actually asking, just recently, as a matter of fact, a couple of hours before I went live, Mr. Owens filed a motion to get the actual procedures for Miranda rights from the sheriff's department in Orange County. Okay. Because they are trying to get the interview thrown out. They're trying to get Sarah's own words thrown out, or they're looking for an avenue to do it. Now, I'm not really worried about this because I don't think that they made any violations. We already know that Miss Copel is much as Sarah squawked about Brady this and Brady that. You know, Detective Copel has been cleared. Okay, and all of that evidence is going to come in. They can't like do anything about her statements or anything like that. But they're going to look hard. And on the one hand, this is a good thing, because what it does is actually him pressing for every kind of defense he can think of is going to remove all of that possible appeal and overturning the verdict, whatever it may be, based on Sarah's multiple complaints that she has had. And she's going to be squawking about unfair reputation. We didn't check this, we didn't check that, I didn't have that. He's going to dot all the I's and cross the T's. I mean, it's a lot of work for them to do. I don't know if they're going to get a continuation based on these new angles that they're going on, because, well, they also did formally file that they are going to go for, like, last week they hadn't filed it yet, but he said in court, Mr. Owens, being he, said in court to Judge Kranick that he was going to go for a battered spouse syndrome, okay, BSS. And in Florida, that's a little tough. You have to have an expert that actually concurs with you, and it's a little tough. It basically, from what I understand, the way I'm looking at it after reading more about it, is that they're looking to say that she had a perception of reality that was different, that she felt fear when you shouldn't feel fear, and she had expectations that a normal person wouldn't have as far as the dangerous of a situation. Okay. And I understand that. If she was in, like, if he just moved his hand and she ran out of the house, called 911 and said he was going to beat me up, I get that. If she felt threatened, well, he was in a suitcase, locked up. How threatened was she? Okay. And if she wanted to let him out, if he said he couldn't breathe, if you're feeling threatened, she could have left. She could have called 911. She could have left if she felt threatened in some way because, like, now he doesn't think it's funny and she doesn't want to get hurt. She could have called 911. Well, basically, they're going to go on the fact that she had altered thinking. Okay. However, Sarah is still insisting she wasn't drunk, even based on the videos that we saw. Okay. And I'm going to remind you guys, this is the video that she once tossed out. Okay. The best copy that I could find for you is this one. And just to refresh your guys' memory again, like, it's pretty damning. She is not threatened. She's sitting on the couch. She is laughing. She's taunting. She is in total control. It is going to be kind of hard. I mean, but they do have Julie Harper, who's an expert witness, who knows a lot about this, and she's willing to come on and testify that she could have been acting that way and at the same time possibly felt threatened in some kind of way. Whether a jury will buy it or not is one thing. One reason I think they're going to go hard trying to get these videos going is that Julie Harper's testimony, the professional testimony from the expert witness, is going to go really, really well with the jury, as long as there's not a video to put another picture in their head. You know what I mean? I mean, for me, it's pretty hard to look at that video and think she was in any imminent danger or had any business thinking that, and, she's also got to worry about the prior domestic violations. Yes, George had more than she did, but she bailed him out every single time. And I know that that's not unusual in domestic violent cases. I know I'm not trying to blame a victim here. I do believe they had a contentious relationship and they were both bad to each other. I just don't think that Sarah wasn't bad too. There were marks all over him during one of these events, and she was actually charged as the aggressor in an event. Okay. Now I understand that that could also be because someone is actually still, starting to fight back in a relationship. Okay. But I also watched many of these interrogations or interviews rather with the cops where Sarah would say that he was beating her up, but then let him back in the house or go pick him up. And the cops were even saying, like, we'll remove him, but if he lives with you, this is a whole nother thing. Like, you're saying you want this person taken away from you, but if he lives there, there's a whole nother process that happens to happen. And she kept like waffling back and forth. And I know that's not unusual. These are stressful situations and it can happen. I'm just saying it could go either way with a jury. That's my point. Not whether or not she was actually in an abusive relationship. I really believe she was. I really believe there's quite a bit of damage there. And I really believe that the way that she is thinking is, well, it's been altered in some way, either because of how she actually is in some other personality thing, or because of this abuse in this situation. Either way, she wasn't acting like functionally normal in my perception, in what I see in any of the interviews, in any of the evidence so far that they have shown. Now, the reason for that and whether that gets you out of responsibility for someone else's death, well, that's a whole nother thing, isn't it? That is a whole nother thing because that video actually shows a depraved heart. That actually shows, I don't care, die, MF, like I don't care. And that is what she's charged with. All right. This is not a simple charge of manslaughter and you didn't know and like whatever, that she can come up with an excuse. I don't know why Sarah Boone has been pushing all of these attorneys, and I do believe all of these attorneys, most of these attorneys walked away over this issue because Sarah Boone in her head literally thinks that after the trial, she's walking out. She has said it when I get out, which will be soon. Like she has said it. I have heard it. She literally believes that because George was bad to her and they had this relationship, that whatever happened to him is fine and she's excused from it. And that's not exactly how it works. Okay. Now, Florida has been having issues back and forth with this battered spouse syndrome legally, back and forth on how far they can actually use it to get away with a, kind of like a self-defense kind of thing to where, okay, you could have killed somebody and you could leave that day when the jury says, okay, not guilty because of reasons of self-defense. Or you can, not guilty, you go to the a mental health facility by reason of insanity or altered mentality. But this new battered spouse syndrome is a whole nother defense that actually is trying to use that loophole to just let her leave with no charges. And I don't know how that's going to fly, because here's another thing that kind of points me towards intent. Do any of you remember the CPS case against Sarah Boone for putting her own son in a suitcase, where she was admonished and warned how dangerous that was? That happened just months before this happened to George. She was literally told how dangerous it was, told what could have happened, told why her actions were inappropriate, inexcusable, and she better not do it again. And yet, a couple of months later, she's playing hide and seek with the man who beats her on a regular basis, allegedly, per her claims, puts him in a suitcase and zips the damn thing up. I don't know about you guys, but I want to see that. I don't know if that's coming into court because we can't see what's coming into court. When I saw the actual evidence list, that, by the way, the state has complied with everything that Judge Kranick said. He sent them the actual evidence list amended with everything. All the electronic information has been picked up by Mr. Owens. He has it all, including the interview, all of this. And she's saying the interview is not time-stamped. I'm sure behind the scenes it all is. I'm sure that it is. But she's actually wants it thrown out for procedural issues. Okay. And they have requested what those formal procedural issues, like she actually filed to have it thrown out for those issues before they even got the procedural, the formal procedures from the sheriffs, like, because that hasn't been provided. They just asked for additional discovery. But I don't see a record that they received it yet. I know it is. It's everywhere, and I'm looking for the actual case file. But because it's a child, we're not going to be able to find it. But a lot of people are actually reporting on it. Hey there, Wrecker. Nice for you to listen in. Oh, things got crazy with Boone today, like as you will hear. but uh, but what do you guys think? I mean, that makes it look really, really bad, doesn't it? I mean, to me, come on, that is like a little bit of insanity, I don't think I'm alone. I mean, some of you like to know what a lawyer has to say about certain things. I will share. I don't have this linked below, but I did watch this one today about this. Some of the same issues that I was thinking. It was comforting for me to see that I wasn't that far off track when, Pete over there, lawyer to know, I think his name is Pete. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Trejo, he actually was kicking on quite a few of them in Florida. Not so much about the battered spouse because he does injury lawyering mostly. You know, wrongful accident, wrongful injuries, and getting money back. And he has done some stuff, but he hasn't really messed with this law that much. I'm still actually researching this as a defense in Florida specifically, because it seems like in Florida, there are quite a few things that can catch you up when you try to use this defense. But as I said in my last stream on this, I really think that now we are starting to understand why so many lawyers said conflict of interest, and she's asking us to do things we don't find ethically okay. And it may be in regards to this defense. Sarah was not listening when they're telling her there's so much evidence to show against this that, like, for you to do this, it's not going to turn the jury the way you think. We got to think of something else. There is other cases against her for the mutual battery. And then there's this CPS case about the thing, which shows a little bit of intent. You can't say in the moment I freaked out because of my history with this man, I thought he was going to hurt me. So I left him in the case. Well, that's fine. Then, he says he can't breathe. Go get somebody else to let him out and leave. But this woman climbed the stairs and went to bed, saying she wasn't drunk. Now, did she go to sleep or did she pass out? Personally, I think she passed out. I seriously hear her slurring. She refuses to admit, even after seeing that video, that she was drunk. And I actually think that's her best defense. And I think that this is what the lawyers were having issue with. Honesty, accountability in the best defense to get you the least amount of sentence or even get off would be just, let's do what we can. Get rid of what evidence we can, but don't, kind of this lack of reality situation in desperation is really, I don't think, going to go in her favor. Although I do applaud the lawyers for pulling it all out, and they are definitely looking at every angle they can, and that's justice. And I'm actually thrilled to see that. I don't want the trial delayed. However, if that trial does get delayed, I think I would be fine with it if it means that all of this is squared away, that they get to bring up whatever issues and they get to go over this evidence and they get to make sure that the state's case is clean and presentable. I'm all for it, because that's how justice works. That's the process. And now she can't come back and say, Judge Kranick made me pro se and I got screwed. Because we've been listening to Sarah for a year and a half, right, people? We read the letters. We see what she's been doing. It would be ignoring the issue if we think that's not what she's going to say, because she's still saying it. She's like, you unfairly prejudiced me and left me out here to dry, hang out to dry. Because in her letter towards the end, she lists all these reasons why we need more time to look at the discovery. I'm in jail. You made me pro se. I can't look at the technology the proper way. I don't get enough time with my laptop. Oh, yes, she does. She gets more time with her laptop than a lawyer would spend in the office with it. I can tell you that. Her personal problems of her delaying her case aren't the judge's problem anymore. He legally proved why she was not entitled to a free lawyer. He never said she wasn't entitled to a lawyer. He is not keeping her from exercising her Sixth Amendment right to get an attorney. And she got one for free now, and so she can't say it anymore. But that's another thing that I want to talk to you guys about, because I have questions and I need your help. Yes, I do. I need your help with this. All right, first question. I don't know how much you guys all watch on the socials, but I have questions about this. Okay. When Mr. Owens signed on, he said that he was defending Crompton, which he means Boone. Okay. He's using a template. I can't blame him. He's got a lot of work to do. Please don't get on him for putting the wrong person's name in there. He did have the right docket number. He filed it to the right place. It does say Sarah Boone at top. But number one does say defendant Compton. He didn't edit very well, or he rushed with his clerk. What it should say, defendant Boone has been charged by information with second-degree murder under Florida statute. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes, that information word. It's very important. The defendant has previously been found indigent by cause by the court, and the undersigned, which this is signed by Mr. Owens, counsel has agreed to accept this case pro bono and has not received any payments towards legal fees. Now, pro bono in the state of Florida under their bar, and I checked by state because every state could, bar could be a little bit different. But pro bono means that it's free. No back deals, no later pay. I'm not going to sign on for a commission. It's service. And actually, the Florida bar actually would like people to do pro bono. I think lawyer, said it's about 20 hours a year they ask you to do, and or make a contribution of like $350 to a certain fund, and they want it yearly because they think it's good practice. So do I. It's not really a lot. You either do 20 hours for somebody somehow. It doesn't have to be a court case. It could be the filing of forms. It could be helping with a thing, whatever. You do your 20 hours, or you pay this so people can get help. It's not a big deal for practicing law in Florida. And it's goodwill. It's good business, right? Can we all agree? Okay. But can we all agree? We see that this says pro bono. He has filed it with the court. Okay. And he filed it again. Okay, when for indigent costs and all that Sarah has no money. Okay, Sarah's signing it saying she has no money and that her attorney is going to do this pro bono, and she verifies in this filing that there's no back deal for any future pay, anything that's going on, no other compensation things of value or funds have been paid or are anticipated to be paid in the future to the attorney in the case from any other person or source. Okay, so then why was Mr. Owen the day of the hearing on September 3rd, did several interviews and went out on the court and talked to everybody in public and said Sarah would be paying at some time in the future? And we all thought maybe book deal, tell your story, give you a commission on anything anybody does on me that I have something to do with. Did they make a handshake deal? Does anybody else have doubts about how Sarah would actually comply with a handshake deal with anybody? Can you imagine the letters? Well, we never signed a contract. Well, I interpreted what you said as this. And, when you said that, you really meant that because, I know better than you. You know how it goes with Sarah Boone. Come on. Would anybody make a handshake deal with this woman? Okay. Not I after the last few years. Absolutely. 4 years of this. No, I would not make a handshake deal. But I want to know, what about those interview statements to the contrary, Mr. Owens? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? How can you tell the court it's pro bono? How could you have Sarah sign this and submit it pro bono and give interviews? Now, in his defense, the interviews were before Sarah signed this. Okay. Perhaps, in all fairness, let's just lay it out there that Mr. Owens realized he may have misspoke in those interviews, had already filed with the court that was pro bono, and in regard for his license, his reputation, and not to be two-faced about the issue, he had Sarah send this in to just clear up the issue. But it did make it very questionable for me. You know what I mean? But I want to give him a fair shake. Like maybe they are straightening it out. Maybe that's not what he meant. Okay. I think it's more likely that it's 15 minutes of fame. I mean, do I think he's 100% on an agenda of justice for all? No. I think it's a mixture of, she's struggling. I've been watching. She's got some idea of what she wants to present for a case. She needs help. Everybody's entitled to an attorney in fair representation. Let's just say this is a murder case, okay? But also in fairness of the families, for the justice for the victim, I'm all for what Judge Kranig did in making her pro se, because Sarah was the problem. And this new judge, the last judge hired, he saw that, as he should. And I'm all for that, that what he did in regards to making her pro se. Okay, but another attorney that wants to volunteer their time, I can understand why they would want to do it. Just to make sure a fair trial happens. That is also going to be what's best for the victim's family and justice for the victim. So, not letting her come forward and say, the whole system was against me and I want the whole thing done again at the taxpayer's expense. Totally unfair. So, that was the first question. I still have questions. I would prefer him to do another interview to clarify all of this, since he made public statements. I don't really feel I'm nitpicking, since he actually grabbed a mic and he said this to all of us. I think we have a right to question this. And what the heck is he doing? I also think there's a little bit of the, this is my 15 minutes. This is a chance for my 15 minutes. This would be good for my practice. I'm going to go for that golden ring. And I'm not blaming him for that. Go get your bag, dude. Like, who wouldn't, right? If you think you can. But I also see the court not saying they're not going to bend over backwards for him because that's what he's doing either. Just like Kranig said, Judge Kranig in the September 3rd hearing clearly said, you knew exactly what you were getting into, or you should have, because everything was available to you. I am not moving that trial date. Well, let's see. Let's see if the state can comply with the additional discovery requests on time. Then there's no reason to. If the evidence stays as it is, the state will not want the continuance and will keep telling the judge that there's no need for one on their end, which helps the judge make his decision. However, you see the ifs here? What if the timestamps are amiss? What if procedure was violated? What if there's something here we haven't seen yet? No, I'm all for them dotting their I's and crossing their T's. Makes for a better case in the end. Makes for a better trial in the end. Let's get this all settled beforehand. We don't want to be doing it with sidebars every 10 minutes, throwing making the jury leave the courtroom and then come back in and come like that is not going to be sufficient. Okay. And getting this all handled ahead of time, less chance for appeal on the issues, and also less chance for it to be overturned for misconduct or inappropriates of any nature. Like we saw in the Alec Baldwin case recently, where everything got dropped, can't be refiled because the state mishandled evidence procedure. We don't want that, right? We don't want that. But I have more of a question. My second question is, our prosecuting attorney, Mr. Cachator, filed recently of some unavailable dates in December. He's taking a vacation or whatever. But if our trial is on October 7th, and even at the length that they think it would be, it doesn't go past really the end of November, Why is he telling us about this leave in the middle of December? Now, it could be that this is just a standard form that because he's taking this vacation, he sends it to every open case. And that is so the judge knows ahead and all the attorneys involved in that case know ahead. I'm not available for sentencing. I'm not available to deal with motions. I'm not available to do answers within a timely because of this issue. It's actually a good thing. But it made me wonder if perhaps they are also anticipating there may be a delay in the trial in, oh, judge, don't put it during here. Like, don't move anything here. It did make a lot of people, especially on legal YouTube, go, very interesting. I'm not the only one, and I was reassured when I went out there and I heard a lot of other people going, what is this now? Really, what is this now? But yeah, that's basically where we are with Boone. Okay. Um, let me just check the chat. Like this is a lot. So threatened that she drank wine and mocked him. Exactly, Liam. I hear you. I do. Juju, even if she said she was drunk, that isn't a valid defense in Florida. It's not because she's not it would be if she was a documented alcoholic under treatment or some doctor said she had an issue or whatever. But to voluntarily drink or take drugs, you cannot use altered mentality because of it as a defense in the state of Florida. Juju, great research. Did you research that for Florida itself? Because that was an excellent point. Very excellent point. She can't use it. When you voluntarily drink or take drugs without like concurrent stuff that says you have an issue, you can't use addict defense or alcoholism defense. No. If she gets on the stand and I was the prosecutor, I would ask if she had gotten in the suitcase that night. Juju, if she got in there, yes, because she seems to think that she has to prove that she put him in the suitcase for her to be guilty. For her to be guilty of the way she's charged in second-degree murder, which is they're using depraved heart. They're using with no care for what would happen to the person, knowing they were in distress and didn't do anything about it. They're not saying she went over there and cut off his oxygen. She's saying she was witness to it and did nothing to help him and was fully capable of helping him. Okay. That's what the charges are alluding to there. She seems to think that if she didn't put him in the suitcase, then she's not guilty. But that's not what she's charged. The crime is not him getting in the suitcase. The crime is not him being in the suitcase. The crime is not her getting drunk or wanting to retaliate on him because he beats her. That is not the crime. The crime is listening to someone beg for their life, getting up and going to bed and leaving their ass there. And they therefore died. That's the blunt way to put it. That's the crime. That's the crime. All this other stuff she's arguing about, that's not the crime. The crime is, the only defense, and they could be going with this, with the battered spouse syndrome, they're going to try to prove that she didn't realize he was in distress. That because of her altered perception of the situation between the two of them and this relationship that they had, that she didn't realize that he would die if she didn't do anything. And I think that's a reach. I think that's going to be a really hard one to pull past the jury, especially if they get to see that video. And if they get to see that video, it's going to be really a hard mountain to climb, almost like the Murdaugh trial. That video was the nail. That one did it. That video alone, with his prior statement that said he wasn't at the place, the timestamps of the phone that were only seconds away before they died, that evidence, okay, as long as it's there, no matter what else happens with Financial and Murdaugh, he's still going to be guilty, in my humble opinion. Not a lawyer, but that's how I see it after going through everything. Common sense wise, that makes perfect sense to me. Without some legal shenanigans going on, definitely that's it. And the same thing here. As long as that video stands, it's going to be really, really difficult. Really, really difficult. Because not only Is she trying to say she was out of her mind that way? But she won't even admit to the drinking, to the lying, to changing her story back and forth. Okay. Now she's trying to say that no, they manipulated her the whole time and tried to get her to change her story. You know, I could see the shock of you guys about that CPS thing with the suitcase. I am looking for the actual evidence of it, but it's everywhere as far as people talking about it and it happened, and it's coming from somewhere. Okay, and it was actually some of the larger channels that were reporting on it. I don't think they put themselves on the line. But it's hard to get. You can't get CPS records. Okay, yeah. Torturing someone who she claims to love is not functionally normal. Exactly. And the not being functionally normal is actually the defense she's going for. They're just calling it something else. But yeah, I mean, and some of us have talked about this from the beginning, that if she would just admit to being altered, that's more of a defense. And it would be maybe not a get out of jail free card, but it would actually affect her sentencing. Would it not? Would not a jury be more sympathetic to her if she would just take a little bit of accountability? That's been my point all along. That the more that she pushes hard, this is why she's not charged with manslaughter. This is why she's charged with murder too. They went for depraved heart because of the manipulation, the changing of the story, the trying to cover stuff up. When they found that video, it was a slam dunk. As far as they're concerned, these are law enforcement officers. These are the same county law enforcement officers that have been dealing with her and George on the record for years, months and months and months. Okay, of noise things from the neighbors, filing complaints on each other, back and forth because of these aggressive arguments that they were hands laid on. Let's be honest, there was physicality, not appropriate physicality between the two of them, a lot. She admits to it. But even in the interview back at the station, not the one on site, she actually says, "Oh, I knew you would talk to me about the sex scratches, but I had no idea about the one on his neck and this one. I had no idea you'd be talking to me about his injuries." I don't know about any of that. But she tried to say that they have aggressive relations, and some of the marks could be, we do. And they tried to get it out of her, whether they did or not that day. And then she's thinking, well, if I say yes, do I have to get tested, or will they be able to prove? Like, you could see during the interview, at least when I'm looking, and I know I might be making more of it, but I can actually see the wheels turning. I actually watched the body posture when she pulls back when she's going to change an answer about something, and she tilts her head a little bit, and then she gives you a different answer. And she's like a recalculating kind of thing, Well, not being functionally normal, Liam says, is exactly why people get locked up. Exactly. Her ex-husband could testify to that. Yes, he could. And he doesn't, in the beginning, he was letting her see the child, and he was for quite a while. But based on court order, as long as it's supervised, he does not let her see the child alone. But, let's remember the 911 call is available too. Okay. And that she didn't call 911 when she found him in the suitcase. She called her ex to take care of everything. Hey, Charlotte. It's good to see you. Hey, Mousy and Jester. I'm sorry I'm not greeting people as they come in. I'm just going through the chat now. There's a lot to cover tonight. Yes, the guy, CLR, Bruce Rivers' take on this case. I do laugh out loud. He's a lawyer. He's got lawyer snark. I just love it. I do. I actually I would hire him in a second. Like he's got this juju in my. I kind of, maybe it's because I'm from New Jersey, but I look at him and he's got this this Jersey, how the mob works, right? Like, let me tell you how it is, kind of attitude about everything. He's got this whole behind the scenes, yeah, sure, Jan. I just love it. Yeah, I just love it. And his legal takes are brilliant. Her best defense would have been to shut her mouth like she shut that suitcase. Juju. Oh my God, you're making me late. This is what, I want justice for his family and everybody so they can lay this to rest. I don't mean to laugh, but the fact that she does give me the giggles sometimes, that just the audacity of where she goes with some of the stuff. And I understand she's on trial for her life. They won't be putting her to death or anything, but she's going to be in prison forever. For a long time, not forever, but at least a long time. In her freedom, is at stake here. Although, it seems like she just likes it there a little bit, like, because she wouldn't take a private cell because she wanted to hang out with her friends. And she does have, by the way, someone who visits her regularly who was a cellmate or a bunkmate in regards to, they had a ward. In the one who actually was in the bed next to her, in the area next to her, that's whose locker she got in trouble for using it all when she was actually let out. And she actually has come back and visited with her a few times. The inmate reports are quite interesting, and I will be putting those in the Discord for you guys. I've got a couple of files I'll be dropping tonight about all of this, for those of you that like to read. If there's something in particular you want, y'all know how to reach me, but I'm not going to drop all of this stuff everywhere like for everybody, because it just gets to be like too much. The Sarah Boone case is a pacer. It's a fur pay case. Nobody gets these records for free unless they're getting them from somebody else who actually paid for them. Just so you know, I'm not trying to be, a big B about it or anything, but I don't see the need. I really don't see the need to put it everywhere, but I want you guys to have the information if you want it. I wouldn't play hide and seek with her, that's for sure. Yes, Juju. Yes, he did right after the court hearing. I believe it's on Court TV. And there was a couple of news agencies that picked it up. I will try to find you a snippet of it, or try to find it, and I will post it in the Boone room. And actually, because I set it out here in public, I'll actually, when I find it, I'll attach it to the description of this particular video for everybody out there on. I'm not trying to keep the information for you. Wherever I'm getting the information, I want you guys to know where, and I want you to be able to double check stuff for your own court, because I want you to make your own decisions about everything. As entertaining as my point of view may be, I'm not trying to persuade you. I just find some of this a little bit ridiculous, just a little bit too much. I watched that interview. So when you showed the latest documents, I was a bit taken aback. Right? You mean the interview with the detectives, or the one with Oh, so you heard, right? What channel was it on, Juju? Do you remember? You're talking about the interview with Mr. Owens, right? Because like he was acting like he made some kind of deal, some kid pro quo. Let's just call it that. Let's quo pro deal with her, like some kind of trade deal with her at some time. I mean, that's exactly how I was understanding the conversation. And yet I'm finding all these pro se documents, and he actually had her sign that there is absolutely no inferred deal now or in the future for him. And that's a bit sketchy. You know what I mean? Okay. But, because I just love snark, let's get on. Nope, we're taking this one down. I'm going to now actually switch if you don't have anything else. There's a lot on this. No, we'll find it, Juju. If you find it first, let me know. But otherwise, I will find it, guys. We're going to find it between all of us, and I will get it linked on here for you guys, because he did say it. I was shocked at the interview when he said, "Oh, she is paying me back." That seemed like a poor play. Exactly. And I think perhaps that might have been a regrettable statement. I will say perhaps, because that's a little, like Liam said, that looks sketchy. It definitely does. Okay. And let me just get one more costume. I see that Jester's making some comment. Okay. Like if she left the house, I could see it, but you slept there knowing he was dying in another room. Exactly. And says that she wasn't drunk. She says she went up there and then eventually fell asleep. And that she actually didn't wake up in a panic wondering where he was. She actually laid up there for a half hour or an hour, just, not worried about it, because he never came up, and then went downstairs. She did not seem flustered, but will not admit that she drank too much. The thing is that I can see the story being true, but she's not doing herself any favors. And what she did is, yes, it's messed up, Jester. I get it. It's the lack of accountability that kept making like she kept getting so frantic about stuff in actually just like giving information that they didn't ask for. That's one thing that really started to perk them up. If you watch actually one of the interviews, and I've got in the Sarah Boone playlist, there are their videos of the other like law and crime in some of the other bigger channels that actually have the full, you know, video from the officers body wear, from their body cams and stuff. All of everything was happening on site, and they were talking, and she was giving information without being asked. She was changing answers that she gave to people, and she was like misleading like stuff, and she would over explain a lot of stuff. And I understand that she was upset, but all of this, because of the history, did start to make them perk up as to what were they actually hearing and documenting. And they start, I do believe, it's my personal opinion, that they started documenting very well at that point. As soon as their radar went off, they just started documenting, because I think they felt that something was coming down the pike, that there would be a case. It as their job, you know, that's what law enforcement does. You know, that's what they do. Okay. All right. The one thing, oh gosh. First of all, I've got a couple of files here for you. Baby reindeer case. For those of you not familiar, I've got the playlist down there on my first video. If you'd like to catch up, because I really don't want to go through everything, you know, tit for tat all the way to the start. But basically, a woman named Fiona Harvey is suing Netflix, but not Richard Gere, just Netflix and the production, because she, in a nutshell, says that they didn't stop Richard Gere from creating a character that is her and said false things about her. Basically, not everything they said is false, by the way. But you know, the baby reindeer is said to be based on a true story, but not a documentary style true story. There is some tit for tat going back and forth as to whether Netflix did due diligence, because they showed the character, which is Richard Gere, which is a character in the story called Donnie, who is actually on the computer saying it's a true story. Okay, like that. They do say at the end and several other things that it is based on a true story or on the experiences of Richard Gere. And, you know, creative license. Richard Gere is allowed to tell his story his way. It happened to him. And here's the thing. Although she first said that she really didn't stalk Richard Gere, and she did the interview with Pierce Morgan, just give you like the brief, kind of made herself look really bad. There is a buttload of information that I've already put out for you guys, and exhibits and this and that. I am going to actually, by the end of tomorrow, have everything watermarked, and the whole folder for Baby Reindeer will be available to you guys. I will actually link it in the description. Actually, I will link it actually in the playlist description, so that as it gets updated and watermarked, you guys can see the documents, because the exhibits are living. Like she said, she maybe emailed him 10 times. Then how does he have documentation that he's already submitted and redacted of at least 10 times more that he had submitted to the police ahead of time? And also all of these audio messages, which in kindness they all are submitting under redaction in you know, so that the public doesn't have them out there before trial. They're all agreeing to keep all of that out, but there's plenty there. There's plenty there, because the motions, okay, and the filings have excerpts of them, and even just the emails from Richard Gere to the police back and forth while the stalking happened kind of gives evidence that the stalking happened. But basically, Harvey's main issue was they said I was guilty and I went to jail for stalking, and I didn't. And they actually didn't hide my identity well enough. People found out who I was. Well, in my description, I have 2 accounts listed for you. Simple Sid and the other gentleman, 828. I think it's Gary 828. It's a number. And they have actually read all of these emails and posted about them in phone calls and all these excerpts. And I'm sorry, there is no way that Fiona Harvey can actually say that it was Netflix that actually outed her. They actually can prove through her old Facebook postings that she's been a problem for a long time. Okay. And I think now she's starting to realize it. But she's the type of personality, honestly, that as long as they give her a moment of fame, she's gonna run with it. Like I think that this is all great to her as far as like this is great. She's getting all the attention she wants. It's a whole big deal. And she might get some money in the end. But I doubt it after I've seen some of the filings. First of all, they have affidavits from all her prior stalking victims who are actually putting on record how she treated them. Okay. So she cannot file against Netflix saying she never stalked Richard Gere or she's not got a history of stalking. The one true fact is she says, well, the whole thing is moot because I never went to jail for it. Well, there's documentation that the police gave you a pass on mental health evaluation and people didn't formally press charges because they wanted you to be well, Fiona. And that doesn't necessarily mean you didn't do it because your own posts on Facebook admit that you did. And I'm not talking just one post this year or last year. I'm talking, let's go all the way back to like 2015, 2010, 20. Her history on Facebook is a stalker diary. Like everything she talks about, you're like, God, I'm glad I don't live next to this woman. Like, I hope I never run into her. She'd been entertaining AF to social media in general. What are her posts? They like you have to watch Simple Said videos. She took her old Facebook down because he did a photo of she, they weren't exactly that explicit. She didn't say, "Oh, today I sent 47 emails." However, Richard Gere did prove that he did get 4.5 hours of voicemail messages in 2 days. Okay, that's awful lot. We're not talking phone calls. We're talking voicemail messages. He never and let's be clear. Richard Gere never responded to an email or a voicemail, and she kept it up. Mhm. Is that her post today? I sent 47 emails to a man. Just about. You, I mean, please, like, if you want some little entertainment on the case, or you want to know like how she's been emailing and what those Facebook posts, simply said, which is linked below, the YouTube channel that's linked below under Baby Reindeer. He actually has been putting up all the Facebook posts. He's got quite a few. He's been doing a video a day, trying to get it all out there and documenting it because she did pull it down. Okay, and the one who actually acquired all this actual physical evidence is the Gary channel. Okay, and they have been very good about putting it all out there, just honestly. This is it. This is the quantity. They're not really making much judgments, but I would admit that they both are getting a little snarky, like myself. You can't read this stuff and not go, "Oh yeah, sure, Jen. Okay, sure, Jen." Well, what I really want to read for you, I gave you the plaintiff's opposition. I think you should read what Fiona Harvey had to say. Before I tell you that, unfortunately for Miss Harvey, the judge doesn't agree. And she actually wanted all the depositions of the previous stalking victims, like Laura Ray, which was Jimmy Ray's wife, that the one who went on Pierce Morgan. She wants another person's in Richard, get all their personal stalking depositions she wants removed. They're prejudicial and everything. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to happen. Judge said, first of all, you filed it late. You knew about all these depositions for months and you didn't. I will grant you that if you want to do it ex parte, meaning, outside of the normal thing, then fine, I'll let you refile it. But you're going to have to come up with another issue because like they're allowed to tell their disposition in support of the behaviors that are being depicted in the Netflix thing. Okay, and Netflix big thing to the judge is like, yo, judge, all you have to do is watch the documentary and then look at her filing. And what did we do? What did we do? She's admitting to stalking Richard in every filing. She's admitting it by saying all the stuff that happened between them. So this going on Pierce Morgan, I barely knew Richard Gere. He wanted to get with me. I didn't want to get with him. I sent him maybe 10 emails the whole time we knew each other in 5 years. It's all bullshit. Literally, her own filings prove it's bullshit. Her own social media presence for the last 10 years, and how many times she mentioned him, harassed him, and went after him on her own Facebook page, taking snarky swipes and all. There was a harassment suit by the bar that he worked with, a complaint filed against her because of how she was inside the facility. There are so many outside sources confirming Richard Gadd's, the writer of Baby Reindeer, his interpretation, like his actual experience, that like not for the feeling of it or how bad was it, but that it actually happened during the period of time that it happened. And here's the actual physical evidence that it actually happened. Kind of like a slam dunk. From what I can see, kind of like a slam dunk. Here is the judge's order denying to get that evidence out because Netflix filed a motion to dismiss and to get rid of this case based on lack of merit, and she's not proving her case. And that is the one thing that I actually want to read to you, because the way they open it in what they say in regards to it, they've got 3 actual answers to Harvey in the fact that she actually has had the nerve to oppose their opposition to what she was saying, because of how she opposed it. Just back that it basically kind of like Sarah Boone, it's too prejudicial to her that you can't actually say I stalked unless I've been committed of the crime. Like what they said, I actually went to jail. That's her point. And I never went to jail. Oh, but you did stalk. And she can't really defend like that part of it in creative license. Like however they decided to deal with it in the story, I think it makes a better ending that she finally gets, held accountable for what she did to everybody. Okay. Makes for a better story and creative license, and nowhere in Baby Reindeer do they ever say Fiona Harvey did it. Okay. And that's another thing. How prejudicial are you, Fiona Harvey, that every overweight person with a Scottish accent that happens to be female is you? Sorry. Yes, it's easily inferred. But it wasn't Netflix that went on Piers Morgan and said, I'm Baby Reindeer. It wasn't anybody else on Facebook but yourself that actually confirmed, yes, it's me. Did people actually ask her if it was her? Yes, they did. Well, she's claiming death threats, but she didn't throw any death threat copies from Facebook in her filings. Only that people were asking her if she harassed Richard Gadd or if she was Baby Reindeer. But she didn't have to come out and confirm it. And no one from Netflix or associated with the project came out and confirmed it until after she did. Okay, now her name is everywhere. And I actually am side-eyeing her a little bit here. I actually think that was her intention. Absolutely. But now she's blaming Piers Morgan. He didn't even pay me and my life is ruined. Yes, that's what she said. I got very little for that interview and my life is ruined. I actually helped Piers Morgan's numbers. He's not helping me. I kid you not, people. I kid you not. This is crazy. Yeah. All right. I do want to read this. I'm sorry. I hope you won't be too annoyed with me. But I have to read this just for me. Oh, this is not the right one. Is it? Let me just check. Okay. This one I'm going to give you 2. This is the one asking the judge, and it's a delicious read for you legal nerds. If you like to read a little bit about it, the language that they use in here, it is just almost exactly what we're all thinking as we watch all this stuff as it's going on. That one is the second one that they put a directing, just inferring that all you have to do is just is to just watch the show and then look at all of this evidence that we have and say, what did we do wrong? Like, Does not Richard Gere have the right to tell his story? Yes, he does. And isn't it funny that she's not suing Richard Gere? She knows there's no case against Richard Gere. Let's be clear. This is money grab. This is the loophole to get this fixation with her being like everybody wanting to hear what she has to say about everything. Because if you watch those videos about her previous social media interactions with the rest of the world, you kind of really start to feel bad for Richard Gere extremely. And even though Netflix is a huge conglomerate, which has enough money to shut her up and go away, and we normally don't feel bad for companies like that, I'm actually starting to feel bad they have to go through this because it's so obvious that this woman is fixated on everyone just hearing what she has to say about everything. And I understand that. Like, I want people to listen to what I had to say about stuff too. But I'm not going to sue a company for $170 million to do it. Okay. Not going to have to pay a lawyer to put out some about it that just isn't going to fly. I would just say that from what I see on the motions on Fiona Harvey's thing, that basically all they really had is the network's executive response that said this is a true story when he spoke to people that questioned him about it. It is the interpretation of Richard Gere's true story and experience. It's an interpretation of it. He wrote it. He did a play about it first, and then it is his life and it's his interpretation. But the misuse of words could actually be used against Netflix in this. That's the only area that I see that they have a problem. How far are they responsible to protect somebody else's identity in a story based on somebody's personal experiences? Is it not the writer's responsibility to do that? And do they actually have to? If they are the one in the experience and it's their story, do they not have the right to tell it? Just because you don't look flattering, it doesn't make you look good for me to tell my side of the story. Doesn't mean I don't have a right to do it. Okay. And then she's got the issue of trying to prove that actual harm came to her. She's free roaming the streets, posting every damn day, doing interviews. People actually don't even want to talk to her because she's getting the crazy reputation. I'll tell you that. Like nobody's going out of their way to interview her. But what does she post on Facebook every day? All during May, when the supposed time that all this distress is going on, she's posting about how everybody wants to interview her, but she's not going to do this or she's not going to go. The time that she says that was so distressful for her that she couldn't function, she was on social media every day. And when you look at the last couple of videos from Simply Said, you will see that those postings were in the 30, 40, 50 posts a day. Okay? There's an issue here. The issue is not that Richard Gere said she stopped. That's not the issue. The issue is not that Netflix didn't protect her identity. The issue here is that for some reason, Fiona Harvey wants the world to know about all of this and her. And this is like her shining light. Like she feels like there's a light on her. And she's basking in the glory of everybody's going to listen to everything I have to say. That's just my personal opinion on what the issue is right now. Because my inbox with stuff that Fiona Harvey has said today is getting out of control. Absolutely out of control. No one could keep up with this. That's why I listed those other two YouTubers. I wouldn't even try to get through all those emails and all those Facebook posts. Like, it would be a full-time job on top of a full-time job. And it would drive me crazy. I mean, absolutely. All right. Let's get to the issue here. Let's have a little fun with the snark. And please forgive my okay. All right. All right. They're going to actually have a hearing on September 16th. That's what this date is. Like the motion to dismiss the complaint. Netflix filed. Let's just get this complaint done because I read what she said and she hasn't proved it legally. Blah, blah, blah. This is what we have to say in answer to it. We didn't do what she said. There's really nothing here, Judge. You need to get rid of it. It's standard for defense to actually file something like this. But because she actually went against it too, now there's a hearing on September 16th. And she has a chance to refile her opposition to those depositions and statements being included. Okay. She doesn't want them included. They were in the motion to dismiss as to why Fiona doesn't have a right to say she didn't stalk anybody, because here's all the evidence that she is actually a stalker. That she wants all that evidence removed from the motion to dismiss so that the judge doesn't look at it for the reason to get rid of the motion to dismiss and to let this thing go forward. I mean, she's fighting back. But anyway, this was Netflix answering her answer to that. Harvey's opposition is an exercise in avoidance, obfuscation, distortion, replete with hyperbolic and inflammatory rhetoric. It tellingly lacks any actual substance. Period. I couldn't have wrote that sentence better myself. In fact, Harvey does not even bother to respond to many of Netflix's arguments and thus has waived any response. She entirely ignores Netflix's on-point authority, relies on inopposite case law, and attempts to resuscitate her defective pleading with non-judicially noticeable facts contained nowhere in her complaint. In other words, she keeps talking about stuff she's never even filed in the complaint, nor submitted as any kind of evidence or with documentation. She keeps bringing up other stuff as if it's part of a motion, and it is nowhere. Harvey cannot now rely on facts outside her complaint to introduce allegations she never pled. In other words, there's a process for that. Ask the court for permission to file an amended complaint. You don't get to just file an opposition and say, no, because it is. No, because it is. When the because of this is are not in the complaint, nor are they backed up by any case law judicially, and they're just statements you're making. Just like, it's kind of like Netflix is saying, come on, Fiona Harvey, show us on the doll where we really hurt you. Come on, show us. Because this is just yada, yada, yada. Like, yo. And she has an attorney. She has a California attorney. Okay. Netflix motions to dismiss must be determined on the actual allegations in Harvey's complaint and the series, which is incorporated by reference. In other words, the series is a fact about what we did. Watch the series. That's it. You can't say we did stuff if it's not in the series. You can't. You just can't. Both plainly demonstrate that Harvey's claims are insufficiently pled. I kind of agree with it. Harvey's complaint concedes that the series contains dramatic scenes and content created to make the story emotionally compelling, and the portrayal of the Martha character is entirely fabricated. After even watching the Piers Morgan interview, I want to ask you guys honestly, everybody on YouTube that may come across this video, and everybody in the chat, and anybody who knows me, please answer this question for me. If you saw the Piers Morgan interview and you watched Baby Reindeer, do you believe that the majority of it was fabricated? Can you not see a kernel of truth that some of this story was told on? If you watch even 3 videos from 2 of the gentlemen that I listed in my description, please answer this question for me. I really want to know, because as far as I'm concerned, after watching the series and watching Piers Morgan, there was hardly anything fabricated. Was it exaggerated? Yes. Was it made more storyline based? Yes. Did it make for a better ending because they put some things that maybe Fiona didn't actually do? I'm sure she may have grabbed the teacup. I mean, to me, it's like Fiona Harvey's whole suit is based on the fact that she believes that when they made a character sit on a bar stool and pick up a cup of tea, that it's slander to her if they use their right hand instead of their left hand to pick up that tea, because maybe the actress is right-handed and Fiona Harvey is left-handed. Or she's absolutely eliminating the fact that they never came out and said it was a true characterization of Fiona Harvey. There are no billboards going up saying this is the true story of how Fiona Harvey stalked me. There's not. And so you can't actually say they defamed me for that, because there are some inconsistencies to the real thing that happened in the story. That happens every time when people tell these kinds of stories. And it's not illegal. And you have to prove that it caused you harm in some way. When you're actually out here living your best life with all the attention you can get, you weren't working before, so it didn't deny you a job. Well, she's saying it's actually going to besmirch her from getting any kind of job in legal because they think she actually got a loss. It's easily proved that you did not go to jail for stalking. Actually, all this publicity, you may now go to jail for stalking. I mean, if it wasn't for the statute of limitations, you could be in some huge trouble here, because everybody's coming together to prove you never stopped your behavior. You went from one victim to another, to another, to another. You are showing a perfect pattern of who you are. And, this is the risk you're going to have to take, Fiona, for these 15 minutes you're trying to go for in this $170 million lawsuit. And I don't think it's fair, because you're just one individual, but it's not like you didn't do this. You're saying they did it to you, but actually you're doing it to you. Okay. And I think that's what Netflix is getting here. Harvey's actual complaint concedes that the series contains dramatic scenes and context created to make the story emotionally compelling. And the betrayal is in fact, it has fabrications. So she actually admits that the story has been made dramatic, that it is a story, and that they portrayed things to make them more compelling, that they actually told some untruths, because that's what you do in storytelling. In other words, Harvey acknowledges it is a fictional story. That is a key sentence there. That sentence is the whole case. Fiona Harvey knows this is a fictional story. Well, she's actually suing because the fictional story makes her look bad, because she said it was based on her. I'll say that again. Because she said it was based on her, publicly, to everyone, repeatedly, in every filing, in every post out there, in her Piers Morgan interview. She said it was based on her. Not Richard Gere, not anyone from Netflix. She did. It's going to be tough. Given the fictional series context, including disclaimers and cinematic elements, that is hardly sufficient to state any claim against Netflix, and certainly not one for defamation. The series is plainly not of and concerning Harvey. And contrary to Harvey's misplaced assertions, the passage of time did not somehow restore her reputation. Because in her pleading, if you read the original complaint, and I will link it in a second again, she actually did say that she had some stalking things, and that time has passed and none of this is done. And that now her reputation has been restored, even though she knows it was public, and that all those articles existed about her harassment of the Rays. And the other gentleman that was in service in the UK. There were multiple articles about Fiona Harvey that anybody could actually research during this whole period of time that clearly classified her as an unwell person with a stalking habit. Absolutely. Her reputation was not so great when Baby Reindeer came out. Her reputation already was about all of this. Netflix allowing Richard Gere to tell his story and bringing it to Netflix, producing it and putting it out on a platform for everybody to see, did not ruin Fiona Harvey's reputation. I will assert that it actually made it clear that that reputation was deserved and a little more accurate. And that's probably very uncomfortable for Fiona Harvey. I can imagine it really is. And I kind of feel for her that way. I mean, to have millions of people watching something that you know is you. Her and Richard know it's her, part of it. I don't even know how much. Richard Gadd could have been actually stalked by multiple people. He clearly thinks that the person he's actually referring to is mixed up with this character this way. and that maybe Fiona Harvey isn't the only one involved. Okay. He's actually advocated for nobody to contact anybody they think it is about and to leave people alone. He don't want to hurt anybody, but he has a right to make money on his story. He's a writer. He's creative. He has every right. Every right. So, oh, Harvey's other claims are mere surpluses and should be dismissed outright. They also independently fail. Her IIED claim fails because the alleged conduct is not outrageous. In other words, she's saying that they went out of their way to hurt her. They did not. And she cannot simply repackage her defamation claim as negligence. She must actually allege the elements of a negligence claim. She entirely fails to do so. Last, her right of publicity claims also fails because the series is an expressive work protected by the First Amendment. And that's true. And Harvey's inopposite authority cannot change that she failed to plausibly allege that Netflix somehow used her identity to its advantage, commercially or otherwise. Because in her original complaint, she said, Netflix made money because it's me. So they own me because they used me to make money. They never referenced her. They never pointed to her. As a matter of fact, Richard Gere came out there and said, like, no, like they did what they could to try to get people to leave her be and to say it wasn't her. But if she's going to accuse them of something, now they're going to produce the evidence to show that part of this story is actually based on fact of things that she actually did and is out here lying about it. And it's actually going to be worse for her. This actual lawsuit is doing worse for her reputation. It brings up all the old articles, all the old stalking events. If she thinks Netflix is the problem, not so much. She is actually the problem in doing this promotion, in out here speaking about it, relentlessly posting about it since Baby Reindeer since before it even got released, which was quite interesting for me to see in Simply Sid's videos in regards to all of the Facebook activity. Okay. So her thing about them putting it all in the public light when it was already in the public light is absolutely, I'm with them on this. This is why this actual filing really spoke to me the most. Okay. um, all of Harvey claims thus should be dismissed for these pleading deficiencies. That said, Netflix concurrently filed motion to strike, seeks to strike the complaint in its entirety because it is barred by the anti-SLAPP statute. We know that's a protection on free speech and creativity here for judicial economy. In other words, there's nothing here. She's got no case law. We didn't do what she said. Let's expedite this and toss it. And this is what anti-SLAPP in many states is for. And it's to cut the red tape. Let's get to the track. It's to get rid of frivolous lawsuits that are protected by free speech and your ability to do something. Just because there's information here that's prejudicial to you, you cannot prove defamation when really nothing happened to you. The bulk of everything that is in there seems to be absolutely true by the evidence that's coming out, including the evidence that she herself is putting out there regularly. Do you get my drift? Like she's doing it. I'm just fascinated. Like I actually want to see. I've been watching a lot of the therapists videos on this and the body language people, but I actually want to see her actually get the help that she needs. Like because she's causing what she says is the biggest hurt to her is actually of her own doing. And I really want to see her to get some help about that because like I don't want to see anybody hurt themselves like this and just spinning her wheels like that. Like it's just making it worse and worse. And I just don't want to see her go down that rabbit hole anymore. Although it seems like she's been going down it for quite some time, Netflix again respectfully requests that the court first determine the merits of that motion to strike, turning to Netflix motion to dismiss only as necessary to determine the sufficiency of any claim that might somehow remain. Okay. And then they go on, and I'm going to give you this one too, to prove all of the actual legal, how she did not actually comply legally with proving anything. Okay. Harvey's opposition asserts that unremarkable position that a fictional work can be defamatory. There's actually case law that says fictional works aren't defamatory. Like this is going to say that is legally untrue. That is legally true, but substantially misses the mark. Harvey fails to meaningfully address that each alleged defamatory statement is presented in the context of a fictional series with cinematic and dramatic elements that are more fantastical than realistic, and thus she fails to adequately allege that the series makes any provable false statements of fact of and concerning her, meaning she's the one saying that she's Martha, the character. Okay. Netflix never said she's Martha. Therefore, her claim that they inappropriately indicated that she went to jail for stalking and had a criminal record for stalking is inaccurate and defamatory because Fiona Harvey has no criminal conviction for stalking. Does she have criminal activity involved to stalking? She has complaints against her. Well, not actually a formal complaint, but where the police have been involved and have talked to her and have actually, put her on that mental health, try to get her the path. Both Laura Ray spoke on it, Richard Gadd spoke on it. The emails kind of confirm it, him speaking with police officers. Was there actually law enforcement involved during this stalking stuff of multiple victims? Yes, there was. Did you get convicted and go to jail? No. Did Netflix ever say Fiona Harvey did? No. Did Richard Gadd ever say that? No. He said Martha did because it made a good story. He had Martha sitting in the holding area in the court crying because that was a better ending to the story. Then, she's still doing it to everybody, and I hope you never meet her, which would have been the more accurate true story. And then they could have called it a documentary. And yes, that was snark, and it's not in the legal document. Sorry. I digress. But yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but you get the gist, right? You get the gist of what they're talking about here, and I hope you will take the time to actually read it because it is definitely lit. I think that I will make that whole playlist of it, not just the playlist. I will make the Google Drive with all the documents for your reading in there. I would imagine there's going to be a lot more. We're not going to be able to see in the court in California on the 16th, but we will get the actual filings on what happens during that court, and we'll be updating again probably by the end of the month. But I can see that things are not going as well for Fiona Harvey as she had anticipated with her filing. I just recommend seeing some of the other videos with all of the actual evidence. And then when you go to the actual documentation of the evidence of the actual emails, in the police emails, in the record of all the phone calls and the excerpts from the phone calls, that the defense, okay, Netflix has actually submitted to the court through affidavit from Richard Gadd, who wrote the story, and also some of the statements and the evidence by the other people that are actually supporting Netflix in this, and they got depositions and they're willing to testify that, hey. Now I will say that some of those people that want to get on board and say, well, Fiona Harvey is a stalker, what is she complaining about? Well, that's just the thing. Like Laura Ray, in her actual interview with Piers Morgan, she actually said that she did recognize the Martha character as Fiona Harvey, but she had personal experience with Fiona Harvey to actually do that. Same as Richard Gadd. So basically anybody who actually had interactions with her in a stalking type manner would kind of lean towards that. But that's not the average person. That's not me or you. Come on, Juju, Mousy, Liam, Purple, anybody in the chat. If you saw Baby Reindeer, you're not in Scotland, you don't know Fiona Harvey. Did you think Fiona Harvey? Oh my God, they're talking about Fiona Harvey. No. You have to be pointed that way. And Fiona Harvey did it. That's my point. Netflix didn't point everybody to Fiona Harvey. Fiona Harvey did. And I kind of support Richard Gere. I don't care what creative license he took. He could have made her even heavier, even worse. He could have put a whole violent scene in there. He did, by the way. He actually says that the attacking of his girlfriend never happened. Well, that was for dramatic entrance to show how scary the situation and what he did to his head, and it made a better story. And he admits it is based on a true story and his feelings about being stalked in things that have happened in his life and the whole situation at the time. It made a compelling story. And of course, he made it even more interesting for all of us to watch because I'll tell you, my mouth was dropped watching this show. Like it was everything. I laughed, I cried, I was like questioned. I had empathy. I got angry at characters. I felt for characters. I was like talking to this. It was one of those shows that like I was watching it with someone and they basically had to tell me to shut up. They can't hear because I'm talking to the show basically the whole time. That's how much was going on. That's how kind of it makes you think a little bit. There's upsetting things. Anybody that's been in any kind of an abuse, stalking, or a no consent situation, I would say trigger warning. There's some very graphic scenes in there. But what I loved about Baby Reindeer is not this lawsuit, but just the genuine portrayal of how people are messed up. Even Richard Gere's character, Donnie, he wrote it with complete honesty about how messed up he was as a human and how we fail in our interactions with other humans on a regular basis. He wrote each character that way, with their good and their ugly right out there to see. There was a lot of ugly, but it was truthful ugly. And that's what I thought was so great about the series. And I'd hate to see it go away because Fiona Harvey got her fiffies hurt because she can't make $1 million on her stalking events. Let's be clear. Maybe she found a way to make this bad habit of hers pay, and she thinks this is it. Suing Netflix, will make this career stalking thing into an actual viable career of hers, with some actually cash in the bank. But I don't want to see her win because I think Richard Gere had every right to tell his story. And I don't think Netflix owes her anything just because they're a big corporation and they made a lot of money on it. Because that's what they do. It seems like everybody in this situation has done what they do. The creator actually wrote it and took creative license. The stalker actually stalked and now is a little annoyed that they're getting called out for it. And Netflix actually did what they did. They don't care about the creator or the stalker, and they just made their money and produced it, and now they got to fight for it. And, they've got the money to fight for it. But in this case, I'm hoping that the loopholes don't tangle them up because I think they really have a good pushback on the fact that we're allowed to tell the truth. If it makes you look bad, I'm sorry. But they actually said it was a story. Now, whether they said it appropriately or not, that's something for the courts to decide. Am I? It's quarter of. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to go. I thought the debate started at 9 o'clock there, Liam. All right. I'm going to actually post that. Thanks for the reminder there. You are an excellent mod for that. Actually, we're all meeting in the Discord. For members who are in the Discord, and for those of you on YouTube or not, I'm going to cut it short a little bit tonight. Actually, I've kind of run out of things to say about Fiona Harvey in this lawsuit anyway. But we're going to have a watch party on the debate in the Discord. I'm going to post a link to the Discord event if you're in there. And if you're not, I hope you do watch it. Just like you may have watched any of the others, the Republican convention, the Democratic convention, if you're American, or you want to get a hoot because you're not American and you want to watch our politics on display, it can be rather entertaining. I will admit, as an American, just keeping up to date. But that's what we're going to be doing, But thank you all for joining me. The last thing I want to tell you is that tomorrow I will be doing another true crime and legal update. I'm going to start doing them on Wednesday afternoons around 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I've got too many cases coming to a head right now with a lot of stuff going on. And this just helps me manage it. I need extra time and I don't want to go to 3 or 4 hours on Tuesdays. So I will see you all tomorrow at 4 o'clock if you're interested, or watch the replay. We will specifically be talking about Andrew and Tristan Tate's new charges in that whole case in Romania, updates to the UK, and anything else that comes out, some of the evidence that's been leaked. And also we're going to talk about Brian Kohlberger in the change of venue and what's going on over there. It's been a little while on that. Well, that's all coming up too. Kohlberger's scheduled for his trial in January. June. In June. So we need to, keep abreast of these things. And it was big. It was big. So there's the link. Thank you all. And I really appreciate seeing you here. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. No Friday stream because, well, I am streaming Friday, but I'm streaming over on the Utopians. We've got like every other week or once a month we do with the Utopians. Thursday, I will be over at 8 out of 10 Cats doing roundtable quizzes. And then you'll see me Sunday for Bear and B, hopefully. Start the week again. Well, everybody have a good night. And thank you again for being here. Don't forget to send in your bingo cards if you played.